So some of you may remember last month, of course, I made a video called How to Write to Your MP, The Art of Being Politely Pushy. And in that letter, I showed you the letter that I had sent to sort of Dan Jarvis. If you want to go and see that before you watch the rest of this video, go check that out. I think it's pretty good. I think it lays out how you write to your MP, why you should write to your MP, and how important it is to write to your MP. But it is still, to me, pretty shocking the number of people in that response who went, writing to your MP is pointless. Absolutely not. We've had, first of all, the whole thing recently about, disability cuts and about how much MPs have been responding to the amount of letters and pushback they have had from their constituents on that. So it does work. I've always said, even in that video, so annoys me the fact that you do not see, my fellow left-wingers not talk about the fact that you should do letter writing campaigns, because it works. It has an impact, but you have to be engaged and you have to be able to write a good letter. Because imagine for a second if you are an MP, and you, again, as an MP, you are incredibly busy, and you get an angry letter from your constituent, like just full on anger and vitriol, or it's just a bad letter, essentially. When nowadays you have a lot of tools to make that letter incredibly better. But there you go. Just imagine if you were to receive a letter like that. Are you going to take the time to respond to it? No. So, as I said in the title of that video, be politely pushy. That's the tone you've got to go for. But anyway, on to, of course, Dan Jarvis's response, because I think this is sort of quite good. And, of course, it does show MPs do respond, to this. So before, of course, we get into Dan Jarvis's response, like I say, please do remember to click on the like, the share button, the Patreon page down below. There's the Buy Me Coffee link. There's the YouTube thank you button. There's also the Pony Club down below as well. There's all that good stuff. And thank you very much for supporting the channel. Like I say, click the like, click the share button. It all helps. So, heck, why not even share this video with Dan Jarvis? So, as always, before we go on into sort of this, I'm not going to share this because I have to show you my email. Actually, I'll tell you what I can do. I can just, hold on a second. I forgot I could do this. I should just copy and paste it into this document instead. That way you can see it. There you go. Hang on, done. Okay. On. Remove that. There we go. So, hang on, present. Aha, there we go. So, hang on. There we go. Better. So, this is, of course, the response I got from Dan Jarvis. And let's go over it. Again, I think this is kind of important sort of to do. So, we begin. So, dear Mr. Again, I've blanked that out just not to dox myself. I hope you are well, and thank you very much for taking the time to contact me. So, since the election, we've worked very tirelessly to address the mess that we've inherited from 14 long years of Conservative government. Again, I agree with that. It is a mess. They've got a lot of work to do, and they have hit the ground running in many respects and gotten stuff done. Anyway, he continues. He says, I very much do appreciate your comments about our Workers' Rights Bill and the Renters' Reform Bill. They are both important steps towards giving workers and renters better rights and protections. And remember, I started off my original letter saying, hey, good on you for doing, Workers' Rights, Renters' Reform Bill. Think those two fantastic pieces of legislation. Good for you, good for Labour, for passing those pieces of, legislation. So, and then of course, next part, I went on to sort of criticize what I saw as maybe a return to austerity instead. So we go from that into this. So he responds, or he starts responding to that point with this. He said, austerity has proven to be very damaging for the UK. It weakens public services, slows economic growth, and has deepened inequality. The last era of Conservative austerity led to underfunded healthcare, struggling councils, and very much increased resilience on food banks. Again, he's not wrong on that. So he continues, showing that, of course, short-term savings can come now at a long-term cost. Again, he's right on that as well. That is why this government won't be returning to austerity. So right there from a Labour MP saying this government will not be returning to austerity. Instead, we are investing in our public services, growing the economy, and promoting equality. Cool. Excellent. Personally, again, as a response letter, I would have liked to have seen him talk more about what those public services are, what he's actually done. But again, that's just me maybe wanting that information. But, hey, there's nothing stopping me from doing a follow-up letter. And as I always encourage people, if you get a response from your MP, why not respond? Why not respond to it? You can respond. You can start maybe a little correspondence and say, oh, well, yeah, you say investing public services, etc. Can you, I'd be very interested to see more of that information. Can you show me more of that information? It's what MPs are for in that. So then, of course, after that, I went on to talk about what was, of course, going on with America at the time. Of course, now we've had the tariffs. We saw, to begin with, again, just to sort of cast that picture of where we were just a couple of months ago. Crazy, I know, where we are now, but there you go. We saw, of course, Trump, screwing over America, screwing over Canada, Mexico. We were at that time of, talking about, he was talking about, April 2nd, it's coming. And of course, we know what happened because we're living in that world right now. I talked about the importance to go after, the big American brain drain that we are seeing happening at the moment. Grabbing all those, American scientists, getting them to work in our, universities, our tech sectors, our, can massively drive innovation, but we've got to grab them. And we've got to start grabbing them now. And he does actually talk about this. And he actually brings up something I didn't know about, but I do think what he does, we'll talk about a bit more, but it is, I think, really good. And like I say, I didn't know about this until Dan Jarvis told me about this, which again frustrates me sometimes because there's things like this that go on almost no MP mentions. No MP mentions. But anyway, back into this. So, of course, it goes back to where we. So yes, on the brain drain currently in America, we are already looking at taking advantage of skilled workers who would come to the UK and offer their expertise. Excellent. That's what I want to see. Good on us for taking advantage of that. The initiatives such as our Artificial Intelligence Opportunities Action Plan have suggested how we can now better facilitate the entry now of skilled professionals and top talent in AI into the UK to drive innovation. Excellent. And then you can actually link me to that. I've had a look at that. It talks about how the UK can, look at AI, what the opportunities are, and what it should do to really develop those opportunities. Quite an interesting action plan, needless to say. Like I say, you can look it up. Artificial Intelligence Opportunities Action Plan. Go have a look. Very interesting read on that front. And I do actually really commend not only Dan Jarvis for bringing this up, talking about that, but especially sort of the people in our government saying, yes, we recognize the fact, hey, a lot of those, highly skilled, trained, professionals in AI, they're now looking to leave America. Well, come on over to the UK. We've got all this stuff we're going to do. That's good. I think that is pretty good. So, good on Dan Jarvis for sort of bringing that up and bringing up something to my attention I never even knew about until now, until I got this response. So, great. Um, and then, of course, I went on to talk about stuff we can do with Canada, looking at sectoral deals. I've brought this up before many, many times. We should be looking at, Canadian oil, building that infrastructure on the East Coast, bringing it over to here, getting it sort of done in our refineries would help with energy crisis stuff at this moment in time. So, again, interesting sort of things that he's now actually said this in response to it. So he said, I appreciate your suggestions on attracting overseas talent and trade with Canada. It is certainly right that we should be exploring all opportunities for trade and relations with other nations. When I can, I'll raise these opportunities with my colleagues in government. So again, we'll see. Who knows? Maybe I've just affected government policy. That's me being a bit big-headed, but hey, who knows? If we hear about this in like a couple of months' time, I'm going to be like, there you go. But hey, very, very doubtful, honestly, on that front. But hey, if maybe this starts a conversation about, I'm going to do sectoral deals. I'm not going to take, absolute, sole ownership of doing it, but I will, of course, praise them for doing it. But Dan Jarvis now starts his conversation with his other colleagues in government. Great, excellent. What I would love to see. So, once again, I thank you for taking the time to get in touch. If I can be of further assistance, do not hesitate to, of course, contact me again. With my very best wishes, Dan Jarvis MBE MP, Member of Parliament for Barnsley North, Security Minister. So there you have it. There, essentially, you have it. Dan Jarvis's response. Of course, it did take a time to sort of respond, but again, I'm not, criticizing that. Like I say, MPs, busy people. So I say you can get a response, you can get them out of them. So be very interested to see what people think about that, what they think of sort of Dan Jarvis's response. Be interesting on that. But yeah, what do you think? I think that was a pretty good. Like I say, it's raised something with me I never knew about. I'm glad, Dan Jarvis seems to be sort of willing to sort of take on, ideas from like constituents and say, hey, that might be a good idea. I'll raise that opportunity and stuff with my colleagues. Great to know that we are taking that advantage of that brain drain. The government is already well aware that that is something that they can take advantage of from America. That a lot of people now going, yeah, America maybe not the best place to live, and they are packing their bags and looking for places to go. And I always said, English-speaking countries first and foremost potentially can benefit. Obviously, Canada is going to be maybe the first port of call for them, but hey, you've got the UK, you've got Ireland, Australia, New Zealand. English-speaking countries are probably going to be the first to benefit from that American brain drain. We should be taking absolute advantage of it. So, as always, thank you very much for watching, and of course, as always, leave me a comment down below. Let me know what you think to that response. And of course, we'll see you all next time.